And we're recording. So again, special speaker meeting series that we've just kicked off of adult children of alcoholics and dysfunctional families. My name is Tom, and I'm an adult child. And I like to get started just with taking a few deep breaths and settling in, letting go of anything that might keep you from being present here for the next 60 minutes. So I invite you just to settle in, close your eyes if you want. Just take 3 or 4 deeper breaths and then just settle into your regular breathing pattern. Then we'll go into the serenity prayer. And if you'd like to join me in the serenity prayer, well, actually we can't do that, but anybody who is unmuted, please join me. God, grant me the serenity,
to accept the people I cannot change, the
courage to change the one I can,
and the wisdom to know that
one is me. To allow a safe environment to recover in our ACA meeting on Zoom, it is our group policy to join with audio and video if you can. If you're having bandwidth problems, that's okay. Just turn off the video. And if you could check in by chat, that would be helpful as well, all for safety. You're invited to include your location and your name if you want. All participants have been muted for the first 10 minutes, and then they will be unlocked afterwards. So we are here to share our experience, strength, and hope as children of alcoholic or dysfunctional homes, the way it affected us then and the ways it affects us now. Would a friend please read the problem found on page 589 of the Big Red Book, or the laundry list found on page 587? And if you can just raise your hand, Abby will unmute you. Or an electronic hand will work as well. Yeah, with this many people. Yeah, Brooke, please.
Hi, which one?
The laundry list or the problem, whichever you prefer.
Okay. All right, the problem. Many of us found that we had several characteristics in common as a result of being brought up in an alcoholic or dysfunctional household. We had come to feel isolated and uneasy with other people, especially authority figures. To protect ourselves, we became people pleasers, even though we lost our own identities in the process. All the same, we would mistake any personal criticism as a threat. We either become alcoholics or practice other addictive behavior ourselves, or marry them, or both. Failing that, we found other compulsive personalities, such as a workaholic, to fulfill our sick need for abandonment. We lived life from the standpoint of victims. Having an overdeveloped sense of responsibility, we preferred to be concerned with others rather than ourselves. We got guilt feelings when we stood up for ourselves rather than giving in to others. Thus, we became reactors rather than actors, letting others take the initiative. We were dependent personalities, terrified of abandonment, willing to do almost anything to hold on to a relationship in order not to be abandoned emotionally. Yet we kept choosing insecure relationships because they matched our childhood relationship with alcoholic or dysfunctional parents. These symptoms of the family disease of alcoholism or other dysfunction made us co-victims, those who take on the characteristics of the disease without necessarily ever taking a drink. We learned to keep our feelings down as children and kept them buried as adults. As a result of this conditioning, we confused love with pity, tending to love those we could rescue. Even more self-defeating, we became addicted to excitement in all our affairs, preferring constant upset to workable relationships. This is a description not an indictment.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Brooke. We're committed to creating a safe place where we can share our experience, strength, and hope and begin to succeed today in situations where we've failed previously. We're not here to talk about others, to condemn, criticize, or judge them. Instead, we improve the quality of our lives as we apply what we learn from listening and sharing with each other. We place ourselves in the care of our higher power, honestly looking at who we are and engaging in healthier behavior. Would a friend please read the solution found on page 590 of the Big Red Book? Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
Okay. The solution is to become your own loving parent. As ACA becomes a safe place for you, you will find freedom to express all the hurts and fears you have kept inside and to free yourself from the shame and blame that are carryovers from the past. You'll become an adult who is imprisoned no longer by childhood reactions. You will recover the child within you, learning to accept and love yourself. The healing begins when we risk moving out of isolation. Feelings and buried memories will return. By gradually releasing the burden of unexpressed grief, we slowly move out of the past. We learn to reparent ourselves with gentleness, humor, love, and respect. This process allows us to see our biological parents as the instruments of our existence. Our actual parent is a higher power whom some of us choose to call God. Although we had alcoholic or dysfunctional parents, our higher power gave us the 12 steps of recovery. This is the action and work that heals us. We use the steps, we use the meetings, we use the telephone. We share our experience, strength, and hope with each other. We learn to restructure our sick thinking one day at a time. When we release our parents from responsibility for our actions today, we become free to make helpful decisions as actors, not reactors. We progress from hurting to healing to helping. We awaken to a sense of wholeness we never knew was possible. By attending these meetings on a regular basis, you will come to see parental alcoholism or family dysfunction for what it is, a disease that infected you as a child and continues to affect you as an adult. You will learn to keep the focus on the here and now. You will take responsibility for your own life and supply your own parenting. You will not do this alone. Look around you and you will see others who know how you feel. We will love you and encourage you no matter what. We ask you to accept us just as we accept you. This is a spiritual program based on actions coming from love. We are sure that as the love grows inside of you, you will see beautiful changes in all your relationships, especially with God, yourself, and your parents.
Great. Thanks, Steve. The 12 steps are suggested as a program of recovery. Would a friend please read the 12 steps found on page 586 of the Big Red Book, or Tony A's 12 steps if you have them handy? Yeah, John, please.
Thanks, Tom. I'm John, adult child, and these are the ACA 12 steps. We admitted we were powerless over the effects of alcoholism or other family dysfunction, and that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understand God. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked God to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory and, when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understand God, praying only for knowledge of God's will for us and the power to carry that out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to others who still suffer and to practice these principles in all our affairs. I'll pass. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, John. Okay, as we get ready for the speaker tonight, Tammy, I think you're the timekeeper. Am I right about that?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, okay, so just heads up that we'll be starting soon. So I'm just going to do a quick reading from the Big Red Book. It offers a little bit of guidance on how other 12-step programs might support the ACA healing journey, and thought that would be a good way to get us going into the speaker. So this is from page 125 in the Big Red Book. For adult children with addiction issues, we recommend that you attend 12-step meetings to address those issues as well. While ACA is often the only program for many adult children, ACA is not a replacement for addicts working a program in Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, etc. So that gets us into it. And as the world is and life is, and ACA showing that we're powerless in some situations. Our actual original speaker had a little bit of an emergency and had to step out, and so we have another speaker, Kim K, will speak for 20 minutes, and so it will be on a little bit of a different topic than AA, but again, trusting our higher power, I assume everybody is exactly where they need to be right now. So I am going to turn it over to Kim. Oh, Abby, there you go. Oh,
All right, there we are. Hello, my
okay.
name is Kim, and we're playing the mute tag or whatever that is, that little dance step that you can do sometimes. My name is Kim, recovering ACA. I'm so grateful that higher power stepped in, and I get to be your speaker tonight. So it's been a little flurry, and I am looking forward to sharing with you a little bit about how CODA and S-Anon are part of my healing recovery process. And so to start, I want to give you just a little background, and I can't really show you the picture because it'd be hard to show it on the camera, but I just found this picture literally in all my stuff last night, and I don't remember seeing it before. I'm sure I have, but it's of my mom holding me when I was probably maybe 1. And as I'm looking at her sitting on the bed, my dad has his gun hanging from the bedpost. There's ashtrays, there's beer cans. There's just a lot going on, right? In this picture of me as a little baby. And that was my story. I was an only child, and my dad was the alcoholic, and my mom tried desperately to control things and keep it safe and manageable and whatever that looked like. And it was extremely controlling. She was very controlling. And she wasn't therefore very nurturing, I think, because she was so locked in trying to get everything just perfect, because I would imagine, she probably came from an alcoholic family also. And so for my journey, I grew up that way, started into my young adult life, didn't understand why I had to try to do everything so perfectly all the time. I was such a perfectionist. So go figure, I went in the military where you had to have great attention to detail and be real sticklerish about things. And I did that for a lot of years, and I tried to follow whatever I thought the steps would be to be successful, to be happy, to live happily ever after, because that was kind of what I was looking for. I figured I could live happily ever after. And so that means I need to find the guy I'm going to marry. I need to have some kids, have a great career, and I'm going to live happily ever after. And so I started that journey, and by the time I was in my late 20s, I realized my marriage was failing. I had a husband, but I had a dog, 2 cats, 2 kids, 2 cars, a nice home. We both had jobs. So for every way that you could look at it, it seemed like we should be really happy. And unfortunately, we were very much just surviving in our marriage at that time. And that was when I read Codependent No More, and it suggested going to Codependence Anonymous. And so I happened to be in a psychology class at the time, and the class teacher had us do a project, and the project was to go visit and sit in on any 12-step program meeting that we wanted to, and then come back and report on it. So of course I chose CODA. And that was in 1997. I went into my first CODA meeting and I'm like, oh my gosh, I so need to be here. And what CODA did for me, if you've never been to that program, a lot of the things that we work on when we're codependent, it's denial patterns, it's low self-esteem patterns. We have lots of control patterns and avoidance patterns, and all of these just horribly mess up our relationships. And so my marriage ended as I got into recovery. I was so grateful because what CODA gave me was this idea of how to like not control just to control, not control to manipulate. Instead, like with my kids, what's the right amount of control as a parent? I had no idea. My parents just controlled the crap out of me. So what's the right amount of control of my kids? And well, just enough so that they're safe, right? Just enough so that they're safe. So I learned a lot of things in CODA and worked on boundaries, did the 12 steps a number of times with a group of people. And I was really lucky because in our CODA group, there were people from AA, Al-Anon, all the different programs, and we often did book studies, and they had to do with adult children of alcoholics. And that's when I started getting this idea of, oh, I am kind of an adult child of an alcoholic, because those book studies would show, it's the perfectionist part of me that probably fit right in. But I didn't know there was more because I hadn't come to ACA yet. And so I think that we had gone through the CODA 12-step book a number of times. And finally, in 2007, the yellow workbook came out for ACA, and we heard about that. So those of us in CODA grabbed the yellow workbook and started working through the yellow workbook. And that was my introduction into officially the ACA program. And I went to a meeting at one point, like a real ACA meeting. And when I went there, I ended up crying the whole time. And it was like 30 minutes away from where I lived. And I didn't want to drive 30 minutes by myself and go cry all the time. I wasn't ready for it yet. And that's how I knew too that, what, I think ACA is where I need to go at some point, because whenever there's tears, there's usually more there. So I was on my way to ACA. I just hadn't gotten there yet officially. I was just doing the yellow workbook studies. And then my higher power decided it was time for me to get serious and really roll up my sleeves and come do the ACA thing, because in my CODA meetings where I had been for all these years, there were some traditions violations that started going on. And it's back in the day when we kind of only had in-person meetings unless you wanted to sit on a phone call. And so all the in-person meetings, there were some people at all of the in-person meetings around me that were part of the tradition violators, if you will. And I tried to bring it up. Could we change some of this, or could we kind of relook at this? And it seemed like it was working for everybody else. So I decided, well, then I need to leave. I need to leave these meetings. And that's when I decided it was time to do ACA. And so I got the literature, and there was a group that helped me. There were like 4 or 5 of us, and we literally met for about 3 months because all of us were concerned that those people, those tradition violator people from the CODA meetings might come over to ACA, because it very much overlaps in a very nice way. And we finally got our ACA meeting, and those people never did come over. They never came and visited, so it was no big deal. But that's when I got into doing the ACA program. And the ACA program for me just has offered me so much. I love having the loving parent. I love this inner child. I used to hate my inner child. I hated her. I just hated everything about me, and especially her, because she was the one that was weak. She was the one that cried. She was the one that threw the temper tantrum. She was the one that didn't know how to do things. And I just had no patience for her still. And so even though I was doing the 12 steps of CODA and studying about relationships and how to overcome, my abandonment issues and avoidance issues and all that, I still hadn't learned the core parts of the ACA program about having a loving parent. And in our red book, it describes all the reasons why we are the way we are. And that's what I needed to learn more about. So I started going through the 12 steps again once I was in the ACA program. And one of the things I noticed, there's a lot in there that kind of touches into the next program that I was slowly being invited into. So there's a couple of questions in the Am I an Adult Child that stood out to me. Do you focus outside yourself for love or security? Do you equate sex with intimacy? Have you found yourself in a relationship with a compulsive or dangerous person and wonder how you got here? In ACA step 4, we have a sexual abuse inventory, and that's where we identify the abuser, what happened, our age, who I told or didn't tell, who got blamed, and how the abuse stopped. And as I was doing these step 4 activities and learning about this hole that I have inside that I've been trying to fill with the food, with the relationships, with being so busy. I mean, I love our little medicine cabinet. You open it up and pull out whichever thing is appropriate, right? Because I was always trying to fill that hole. And so as I was doing my inventories, I realized I had a number of relationships from long, long ago, a number of them that were with sexaholics, or I had an alcoholic too, but mostly sexaholics. For whatever reason, that's who I was attracted to. And since I couldn't seem to figure that out, and ACA tells us, you know, if you need other programs, go check them out. And so I did go and check out some S programs. I went to SLAA, I went to COSA, I went to S-Anon. I tried different meetings, and I finally ended up staying in S-Anon. And what I got there is a great deal of help because it's very specific to that part of my ACA issues. You know, when I do my step 4, there's all sorts of isms. I have so many possibilities. You know, with an addictive personality, I can be kind of extreme or whatever. And so it was really helpful to go into another program, and now we're focusing specifically on that one thing. I've also tried Overeaters Anonymous years and years ago, and that one didn't really work for me, even though I've had eating issues as well. But S-Anon definitely had something for me. And that's where I started learning that you know, another person's sexaholism, it's not that they're bad people, they're just sick people. And I started appreciating all that by going to these other programs. And those are things I wasn't quite getting to with my ACA program. So what's it like today? For me today, I still go to my S-Anon meetings and I go to my ACA meetings. And if I have a week where I'm too busy, I will probably make ACA my meeting that I go to. Because for me today, it still feels like ACA is underneath it all for me. That is underneath it all. If I keep working on loving myself, loving that little girl, which I do appreciate and love so much more today. If I keep working on having my loving parent have all the tools to respond to her, it does a world of good for me. And I need that other program because I still have my other stuff, this other stuff that also is in me. And having a place where I can go talk about those very specific issues is fabulous. And it's not something that I necessarily would bring and share traditionally at a general ACA meeting. I might share it offline with my fellow travelers. But the whole sexual thing is kind of that, it's a very vulnerable area, and it's nice to have a safe place to go with that. So today I have a wonderful relationship with my inner loving parent, my inner child, and my higher power. It's not perfect and never will be, but it's so much better. I'm curious, actually, today, I'm wondering, you know, as we keep peeling the layers of the onion, I wonder if I'm going to find another 12-step program at some point before I'm done. Because what I find is all the different programs have these great little focus points, you know, whether it's Under Earners Anonymous or Debtors Anonymous or whatever it is, there's like these really fabulous nuggets that we can only get by going to those programs. So I don't know yet if I have another one that's going to need me to go focus on it, but maybe. One of the things that I'm loving about today in ACA is the idea of being able to love ourselves unconditionally. And again, I know it was in my other program, it was in CODA, because I mean, in our big red book, there's so many sections on codependence. I mean, if you look in the index of the big red book, codependence is all over the place. So I was in the right program when I started, if you will, but I hadn't gotten to underneath it all, which is what ACA is doing for me. And so with ACA, I love that we read every meeting, the gentleness, humor, love, and respect. Those 4 words are so important to me. That's what my inner child needed to hear, because there was nothing in my programming that would allow me to be gentle with myself. That was not what my mom did. She did not have humor with me. Everything was very serious in my alcoholic family growing up. It didn't feel like there was respect. And I know they loved me, but it was so cold in that environment. It didn't feel warm and loving. Let's just say that. So in ACA, we're always practicing. I'm always trying to figure out, how do I do that for myself, and how do I be those 4 words to another person? Let's see. I love that in this program we have the Loving Parent Guidebook. I love that we have the 12-step book. I love that we have a trait book. I mean, we have so many different ways in also. That also feels really important to me, because I feel like for me as an ACAer, it's really great to have lots of options on the table. When I have to do it a certain way, I still get scared. My little inner child gets scared sometimes, of like being forced to do things a certain way, or kind of being trapped. And that's why some of the other programs I think wouldn't hold me forevermore, is because they're so focused sometimes in that very special way that's so helpful. And I feel like I need a little more. And I feel like ACA gives me all these different avenues that we can explore together with fellow travelers. And I really love that. One of the other things I love is when we read in each meeting in the solution about, this is kind of like what tells me unconditional love is what we're working towards. Look around you and you will see others who know how you feel. We will love and encourage you no matter what. We ask you to accept us just as we accept you. This is a spiritual program based on action coming from love. We are sure that as the love grows inside you, you will see beautiful changes in all your relationships, especially with God, yourself, and your parents. And for me, being able to be with my parents in the last years before they passed, after having been estranged for maybe 6 or 7 years from them, that is because of this program. That is because of the things we learn in this program. We learn how to calm our nervous system. We learn how to show up for ourselves. We learn how to not abandon ourselves. Like, that's for me part of what the loving parent inner child is for me today. It's like, you know what? I might still go be eating my bag of potato chips, or I might still be out doing too extreme of a behavior that's probably not great for me. But today I stay with myself. That loving parent stays with that little girl, even though she's doing something that's probably not great. And that's what I'm learning in the ACA program. Those are the things I didn't have growing up. And I love that. I'm learning it from being here in the meetings with each of you. You know, we show up for each other. We love each other. So I still have what I've had my whole life: depressions, anxieties, a little bit, have that stuff. I still have the controlling behaviors. I still have it. But more frequently, I'm able to see it for what it is and soften it. And that's what I'm learning in this ACA program, is how to soften those behaviors, how to integrate the laundry list, right? I know I can be afraid of authority figures today, but knowing that, I can pump myself up. I can coach myself. I can love on myself as I walk down the hallway into that person's office, when normally in the past, before I had worked my ACA program, I would be shaking and I would have lost my words because my brain would have shut me down again. And today, as I'm walking down to their office, I might go to the bathroom first. I might like go outside for a moment first so I can say a quick prayer. I might go really slowly and be making sure I'm like in my body, you know, like doing things to help me. And those are all things I've learned in this program. And I wasn't getting that in my other programs. I'm sure I could have. It's just something wasn't quite working. And so whatever programs it is that we need, I just am so grateful that we can go to any and all of them and sprinkle them through our weeks so we get exactly what we need. And with that, I think that's kind of where I'm at. This is a last minute little speech to come up with. And bottom line is, I'm super grateful. I am always grateful. I'm so grateful for everybody that comes to these meetings and shares your stories, because in each of your stories, especially when we start sharing all these different intricate parts of ourselves, that's how I get to know me better. And it's in knowing me better than I know where to go next. With my higher power guides us, right, through what people tell us, what resonates. And that's how I'll know if one day I need to go to yet another 12-step meeting. And I'll try not to sigh too much if I do, because I'll know that that's my higher power, right? It's what's next to make me into the person that my higher power wants me to be. And I feel like that's what a lot of us are doing here. We're trying to just be our best self. So with that, I will end my sharing, and thank you very much for letting me be of service here tonight and step in for Lauren, and just so grateful to be here with you. And if anybody has questions, I am open to Q&A. Otherwise, we can go straight into sharing, because I know that was kind of the other what we wanted to also be able to do, so. And I don't know how that works, if somebody just raises their hands maybe and asks a question, and if nobody has questions, then.
Yeah, so electronic hand would be the best. And thank you so much, Kim. And please keep your sharing focused on your personal experience, strength, and hope. And that we will keep the sharing down to maybe 3 minutes. But when the timer goes off, please feel free to finish your thought. You don't have to stop right that second. And crosstalk. As we prepare for sharing to ensure each individual's safety, please no crosstalk. Crosstalk means making distracting noises or having sidebar discussions, interrupting, referring to, commenting on, or using contents of what another has said. Obviously, if you have a question for the speaker, that's totally fine.